What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. We are talking about the outbreak that occurred, and so let's just get through this. Salutations, everybody! Welcome into the show tonight. We are Logic and Reason. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We have a new setup now, and so very curious to see how this goes. Let us know if you guys like the new look. We'll probably get our black and white thing later on. The cameras are not really fully set up yet, but we'll work do. We'll make do what we got. All right, so the news is pretty old. Not old, but everyone kind of knows what's going on at this point. We noticed, I guess I first got introduced to this with a Houston Chronicle article. And then shout outs to Kofa. He mentioned it in one of his live streams. Mm-hmm. And so during one of his Sunday barbecues.
The roast. Yeah, he was cooking.
If you haven't checked that out, make sure you do. That was a good show. This is unfortunate because it hits home for us. If you guys notice some of the comments that we were making on his live stream, unfortunately, this is happening in Houston. However, this is a national issue, so the numbers are going up nationally. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I just wanted to make sure that people were aware of this. It's not just a Houston problem. So
no, I wouldn't believe the numbers if they said that.
Yes. All right, so let's get into the story.
Okay.
But tell me why the increase now? I mean, we've actually been reporting that syphilis has been on the rise since 2020, but what's happened that led to this increase?
Sure, and because it's an infection that is so easily treatable and curable, we were at very, very low levels for a number of years. And so what we are seeing is that despite, screening guidelines for pregnant women, where we are required by law to screen pregnant women in the first semester and the third semester, we still are seeing congenital cases where moms are passing along the infection to babies. So we believe there may be under screening, under diagnosing in women of childbearing age. Mm-hmm. And we also believe that some of the attributing causes to this new increase is really, I think people have had a bit of, apathy to thinking that syphilis may not be a problem anymore. We don't talk about it a lot in the media. And so I think people have just been lulled into a sense of complacency that syphilis is not the problem that it is. And as I said, it's so easily treatable and curable. Yeah. We were at very, very low levels in Houston many years ago, and now we just want the public to be aware that these rates are really, really rising, and so we know that folks need to be screened, even if they suspect something is going on, or even if they don't suspect something may be going on.
So what's interesting about that is, so we looked at some of the stats. It looks like syphilis has been increasing throughout the year, especially during COVID, which I imagine a lot of that had to do with the fact that people were bored or stuck in an apartment with their roommate, and they maybe had a roommate of the opposite gender. And so like, hey, why not? Although you would think because of social distancing that it would be less interactions with rando people.
Yeah.
That seems to not be the case. This year in particular, for some reason, people are just letting it all hang out. And as a consequence, Houston's gotten put on the map for the wrong reason. So what was confusing about this, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this little factoid as well, but with a lot of the outlets, when they're talking about this outbreak, a lot of them are mentioning the rate of syphilis among pregnant women and passing syphilis down to their kids. It is a practice where a lot of times when you go to your OGBYN, I think that's the full acronym on that, that they'll test you for different STIs, and syphilis has to be one of those because it's definitely detrimental to the baby. But it's weird how that is the canary in the minefield, if you want to put it that way, Because you would think that you would be just mainly dealing with single unpregnant women. I mean, I don't know how sexually active pregnant women are. I guess maybe they were sexually active before their pregnancy, but during pregnancy, I don't see how. I mean, unless you're still getting it out there, I don't know.
It seemed to be a strange stat.
It's a very strange
altogether.
stat. So I don't know. Maybe that makes sense to somebody.
No, it doesn't make sense. Don't give them any credit.
Okay, all right.
And especially during the COVID era, it should have been more. There should have been much more precaution. I mean, generally, people should be more precautious with their actions, but heightened precaution.
Yes. So just to give some context, Houston saw about almost 2,000 cases in 2019 of syphilis, and then that rose to almost 3,000 in 2022, and so you can look at that as almost a almost 60% increase, and then now they're saying that the increase has now gone up to 128. So people are getting really busy.
It's ridiculous. With the wrong people.
Yes.
Or without, I shouldn't even say people. It should be one person, but
When I mentioned nationally, the national numbers look even worse because if you compare the whole decade, the actual percentage of increase for the decade has been 700%. So it is definitely correlating with the hot girl summer movement that we've seen in recent years. People talking about how hot and wet their box is, and maybe they were referring to the syphilis that they have, it being hot and whatnot, burning in the wrong sense. I'm not sure if that's something that we should be celebrating. This is a weird thing. I know there's a lot of single people out there.
Okay.
And some of the red pill folks will tell you that most guys are not having relations out there. And it's really just a small portion of people who are doing all the relations having. Mm-hmm. Which means those small people, it makes sense with the tipping point with shout outs to Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
There's a small number of people doing, a large number of impact on things. Right.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. And who have these illnesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my question is, are these women aware that they're sleeping with the same guy?
That's your question?
That's my question to you.
Of all the stuff? Okay.
I mean, you can go with other things too, but that was just my initial thought.
I don't know these women, but no. Let me think. I think that some of them probably do. They know this. They're sharing the same man, but I don't think they're aware of what type of activities he's getting into, or they're not seeing the height of like what kind of danger they could be putting themselves into, like health dangers. I mean,
Yeah.
What about you? Excuse me.
I don't think it's really a concern. I think a lot of people, if I had to make an educated guess, I would say that a lot of folks are just doing things. Right? They just do. And so I'm in the pursuit of pleasure of all kinds, right? We overeat, we overstimulate when it comes to movies and entertainment. We overdo a lot of things.
Yeah.
Moderation is not the word of today. So when it comes to stuff like this, especially when you compare the messaging of you can do what you want, be a free woman, liberation, which sometimes I'm a little confused, is liberation is always tied to promiscuity and just hedonism, which I'm not sure how that works, but okay. That's fine, fair, I guess. And so, this makes sense, right? Unfiltered decision making. Let's just do whatever with whoever, whenever I feel like. You'll do. Come here, right? That's kind of.
That's not true freedom, though. That's
it's not.
Doing what...
That's slavery to your impulses. I mean, that is definitely 100% facts. That's not actually freedom at all.
Yeah.
You have zero control over your impulses. You're just a slave to your thoughts.
Especially with the number of women who, and men who have been online in recent years saying how lonely they are and, how sad they are, and maybe even listing off some of the things they've done and wishing that they had not done it before. So clearly, it wasn't a decision that they were in their full capacity when they made it. So I don't know. And then of course, this is a whole other additional thing that could happen is STIs. So
yeah, the not being in full capacity is definitely an issue. But, alcohol has its problems, which we as a collective can't really seem to figure out. As it relates to the black community, I wouldn't say that our alcohol use is any worse than anybody else's. I think everybody's an equal and opportunity abuser when it comes to that. Kofa mentioned something about, in his last episode, he mentioned about the guy who has 7 baby mamas.
Oh, dear.
That interviewed with Kendra. And this is not the first time. I don't know what platform I remember seeing him in, but his story is familiar. I've kind of already seen him before. How does this guy get, 7 at-bats? How does this work exactly?
How does someone agree to be the next...
I give grace to number 1.
Okay.
I maybe give grace to number 2. Number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, I'm a little confused with. I would put them in the same category. It's the same problem I have with Nick Cannon, right? Nick Cannon has 13 kids at this point. Mm-hmm. How do you continue being in this line? What's the thought process here?
Yeah, 13 kids with several different mothers.
Yes.
Yeah. I think these guys are sweet talkers.
That guy didn't really seem to be that sweet of his
Or maybe
speech.
not sweet talk. I'm calling it sweet talking, but like a smooth talker. He knows how to get what he wants. And I even caught a little bit of Kofa's episode this morning, and I saw he mentioned something about, or he showed a little bit of the video from Kendra, and she said something about, oh, well, at least he's honest. And so it just made me sick. I'm like, okay, so maybe that's it. They think they're dealing with an honest guy. But there are a lot of honest and nice guys out there that they won't give a chance to. So
he's honest, but what he's saying is not good.
It's not good. It's a bad deal.
I
just can't even imagine someone coming up and being like, oh yeah, I have 5 other baby mamas wherever you are on that spectrum up to the 7 kids he has, and he's like, yeah, I'll have kids with you, but I'm not going to be there. And
yeah,
that doesn't make any sense.
My favorite line of all, and I forgot who said this, but shout outs to him. He said to this lady who he knocked up, he's like, hey, I'm pregnant. And he was just like, fantastic. You're going to be a great single mom. Just
awful.
Oh, man. Shout outs
gosh.
to our sound effects. Let's get it.
Yeah, we have some new things going on, y'all.
Oh, man, that's so bad. That's like, wow. And you stuck around for that, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how people would react to that. That's, I guess maybe when you say stuck, maybe they were stuck after that, or they thought they were stuck.
Stuck with him?
Yes.
He's actively ejecting himself out. There's no stuck.
Well, as far as changing who their baby's father is going to be after they've already.
Okay. Yes, but
dealt with
that was
unsavory.
But that was something that. Okay. All right. That's a good talking point. So people are not thinking long term, right? Mm-hmm. This pleasure seeking that we're talking about. I don't understand the concept of getting pregnant off a one night stand. The one night stand thing was always strange to me because it's like, you don't know this person. There is always a risk of pregnancy. And for some weird reason, nobody wants to use condoms today. I don't know what it is, but people are so easily willing to have relations with folks unprotected with people they don't know.
Yeah, I was waiting to see when you're finished. I was going to say, yeah, with not in a family context.
No. Unprotected relations with somebody who you're building a family with, no issues, right? That's kind of expected. That's what you would expect. But somebody that you met 2 hours ago, right? Don't know this guy. I don't even know if he speaks English because people aren't really talking like that. And well, maybe this has that. Maybe the alcohol thing is tied to this. So maybe this.
Oh yes. Are you bringing that up in a minute?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead. You were saying something
Well, no,
about the alcohol.
I was just saying I wasn't I wasn't going into a discussion about alcohol.
Yeah.
Just mainly it was maybe this is tied to it.
It probably is. I mean, I'm not gonna absolve people of their actions because I don't want to say everyone, but most people know what they're doing. So, and then what about the repeated behaviors? You know.
So then we have another debate that's tied to this, and that's with the issues between Tariq and Dr. Umar Johnson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can actually.
Whose fault is it?
Yeah, so if we have a culture that is co-signing debauchery, right? Essence Festival, right? Let's just use
Oh
that
my
for
God.
example, right? Like this twerking is at full display, right? This is what black women are known for today. We're known for twerking, right? That's just what we do. When we go on
Completely
stage,
out of hand.
we have to twerk because we want to tie it to some type of African tradition that it does not exist. But
Yeah.
you know,
They made that up. That's not part of any African tradition. They really did. What tradition?
West African Bantus
That they never
whenever they
consulted
got on
Africans on.
would customarily go on a stage and shake their butt in front of strangers as a
With barely any clothes on, and then they call it empowerment.
as an
I'm
homage.
empowered. I'm like, do you feel empowered?
It's
You're
an-
naked. That's what you are. You're naked on stage in front of a bunch of people.
It's an homage to the ancestors. That's what it is.
No. Garbage.
So this is what we're known for, right? And a debate happened a couple of weeks ago as it relates to single moms, children from single moms, and men who are competent adopting these children or taking these children under their wing. And Dr. Umar Johnson, paraphrasing here, basically said that it's the competent male's fault for why our community is the way it is, that we're not doing our part to bring these guys along, especially since we know what situation they're growing up in. Tariq and the guy that he was actually, that Dr. Umar Johnson was across from, was saying, wait a minute, this is a result of that woman's decision making and poor decision making relating to, you know, having these kids without fathers, because she decided to have this child with a pookie, and why am I on the hook for a decision that she made? So it was a whole debate. And Boyce Watkins got shoved in here because I think he married somebody who had kids, and he talked about how great of a relationship he has with the kid's biological father, and they text each other and maybe have sleepovers and stuff like that. I don't know. Sounded like they were really, you know, buddy. I guess before I may give my thoughts, what is your take, especially as a woman in this situation, about the different sides to this, if you want to call it a debate?
Ooh. Well, I guess I just have to say generally. I can't speak on the whole debate, but generally, I think you have to look at the individual people, right? And I think these, I don't want to say prominent, infamous single moms that are out there now, making it a lifestyle to collect as many fathers as you can. I think that's.
You talking about like Pokemon? Trying to catch them all?
Well, they're wearing a badge. The other girl went and posted online, "Oh, stepdaddy season." Like she was just gonna trade him in, trade him out. Hey guys.
Oh,
you
you're
know.
talking about what's her face? Brittany Renner. That's it.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous.
That's
and
right.
so I think they give a bad rap to people who genuinely just either didn't have a good relationship or I was gonna say that or their spouse passed away, but that would be a widow.
Yeah.
They give a bad rap to women in general. You know.
Now, why aren't
And
women? Well, actually, I can't say this. I was going to say, why aren't women more vocal against this stuff? But then I realized that on the Essence post on Instagram, there was a lot of women in the comment section saying, "Hey, this is ridiculous. This makes us look bad." So I don't actually want to say that. I guess maybe the problem would be those women are not vocal enough to the point where they can influence Essence.
Yeah, maybe not that particular event, but I was proud. I was like, that when you showed me that clip, that's one of the first times I have seen more of the normal, black women or the working and professional ones, even if they're like, I guess what people would say middle or lower class, like still speaking up and saying, hey, that's a bad representation. Finally, because normally you get the rah-rah butt patting. Oh, girl, you look great. You're amazing. You could do whatever you want. And it's like, that's...
Shout outs to Keke Palmer. I mean, that's literally it.
Yeah.
That's literally that
But
situation.
it's like they're praising something, a situation that they wouldn't do. Are they going to be there to like help you take care of the child if you just decide to run off and be with somebody? And like, there's just so many consequences. Like, you don't even have time to list all the things of trying to do things like that. So,
well, I guess
the irresponsible behavior.
I guess their solution to that is just go ahead and just get you an abortion, girl.
They are really pushing that, especially this summer. And I know people are really upset with what was the decision recently?
The shooting down of Roe v. Wade.
Yes, there was that, and then after that, then Texas coming back with our own kind of law. I'd have to look more into that, but I don't know. I'm sensitive to that because I'm just like, some people out here are like trying to have a child so bad, and you guys are just like, oh, pro-life, pro-choice, and it's like, that's not pro-choice. You're pro-death. You're killing a child. So, that could all be resolved with one, not starting craziness in the first place of just sleeping around, but two, America going back in towards a family-oriented type of society. But unfortunately, I think we're going away from family, especially the more that feminism is pushed, and LGBTQIA mafia, they've even taken over. Even the people who have wanted, like, I think I mentioned that in another episode, where there's been gay people, they've been gay people who have families, but the type of people that they keep putting forward as a representation of them are now, the drag queens, but like the most outlandish drag queens, and they want to put them around children. And so, my theory on this is going to be that the devil is just trying to, play his cards, bring everybody down.
To go back on one of the points you made.
Which one?
Jeez, these rappers' names are ridiculous. All right, so YNW Melly.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Mm-hmm. What's going on with...
She made a song a while back called "Murder on My Mind." It's in relation to...
Oh, never mind. Maybe I don't know them. I was
the
thinking
abortion
it was a guy.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is promoted.
It's heavily promoted, and now I know they know what they're doing.
Yes, I read an article from Texas Tribune that was talking about how the strike down of abortion clinics is going to mainly impact black women, and somehow
I hate when they try to throw us in there.
She tied that into the fact that black women have a more difficult time during childbirth. So your
ridiculous
your advocacy for getting an abortion is the fact that the birthing process is difficult, and that some people would even get disabilities from childbirth, from being pregnant. Excuse me.
Yes, or well, yeah, I think she was saying from being pregnant and then getting through the process.
Actually, let me go ahead. Let me not misquote this lady, because I want to make sure
it was so ridiculous,
I represent her to the fullest.
Think that it's not even a real thing, but
no, I want to make sure she's
the lengths people will go through to try and push this thing, and then also it's just like, that the political powers are just playing games to keep us all distracted, fighting about things that, we shouldn't be worrying about this right now. We should literally be worrying about, the budget and finding suitable candidates to run for office. Yeah, I don't know.
About 40% of women who get abortions in the United States, the whole country, mind you, are black women.
Okay. Is this the girl's argument?
This is her.
Oh, dear. Or her article,
this is her article. All right, so Roe v. Wade, yada, we already kind of know that stuff. Let's get into the nitty.
All right.
One of the issues and why we need abortion, according to this lady, is the fact that black women in the United States are more likely to be obese. That's one of the reasons why we need abortion, because black women, more than their white counterparts, happen to be obese. I don't see how that's relevant to anything. The obesity issue is a different problem. It is a problem, sure, and other people have talked on that.
Okay.
But that's that. The other issue why we need abortion is because black women are prone to more stress and increased cortisol levels. Right? So that's the other one, right? So we need abortion because black women tend to be more obese and black women deal with more stress because of trauma and racial trauma and family trauma and slavery trauma and other types of traumas.
And this is based off of she didn't put any source in there.
She did not put any
Yeah,
source.
she's
She
just
said,
making a bunch of assertions.
I mean, she might have a source in here. She just didn't label it in.
Yeah. I mean, just a lot of
So literally, as she quote, and so literally the combination of poor health, lack of income, right?
you can't say that generally about black women.
Sure you can. See, so two things exist at the same time.
Okay.
Black women, on large, are killing it, right? We hear all the time about how black women are killing black men in the market, right? We're making all this money, just spraying money all over the place.
Okay.
Simultaneously, black women are most impoverished.
Don't ask me any questions on that.
Right? This is why we had to have a universal basic income established in Atlanta for specifically black women.
We need to do a follow-up episode and find out how those women are doing with the free money.
Because it doesn't make any sense. You can't have two at the same time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's important. Lack of access and the stress of being black in this country causes premature.
Sorry, I shouldn't have laughed on that.
What? That's what she wrote.
It is, but it gives me recall to something else. Go ahead.
Right. So, look, we weren't here to talk about abortion. We were talking about how the syphilis and poor decisions. But all this stuff is interconnected.
Yeah.
Right. The bigger point here is the fact that we, as a society, as a community, if you want to even call it that, I'm under the impression this community has died a while ago. But with the remnants of this community is out of control. Like we're doing a bunch of crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the women who are on the straight and narrow don't have any influence.
Oh no, they'll shut you up.
India Irie was like, yo, this whole Essence thing was ridiculous. And people jumped on her.
Yeah. What did they tell her? They told her, sit down, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. It's 2023. This is how women dress now.
I mean, and this is a lady who
you should be supporting women.
I mean, and she does support women. She's "I Am Not My Hair" was one of her biggest
she does
records.
Support women. In actuality, she does with her actions, her music,
uplifting music.
And really, was the response necessary for them to come and attack her that way? I mean, she really all
it
she
was.
did was
It was 100%.
say that you can represent yourself better as a woman.
No, see, first of all, she messed up because this is the best representation that I can do. Okay.
Who are the artists on that one?
They are liberated women. And what that means is that if I want to walk around half naked, damn it, I'm going to walk around half naked. Because nobody can tell me nothing.
And who gave them that message? Media.
Maybe.
It's interesting because I always think about when I was growing up, I remember things being a little bit...
Broken Traditions
people
says,
being more,
good evening, y'all.
Oh.
Good evening.
Hey, Broken Traditions. How you doing? I remember people being a little bit more modest, like without anyone having to tell you. You just dress properly. You can have a sexy outfit for like certain events or, age appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that there used to be, I mean, if y'all go back in history, right, we knew how to dress in the past. I mean, our grandparents, our great grandparents, going out going out in a suit. Like that's what you did, right? You had on a dress, right? Sunday's best actually meant something. Mm-hmm. Last time I went to a church, maybe a couple of folks were wearing Sunday's best, and all those people are older people.
Yeah, the elderly people are holding it down.
Yes. So it doesn't really say much for the people who are raising kids now because it's like they're not passing down these traditions. It's a free-for-all. You just do whatever you want. Everything goes. Everything's cool. Everything's accepted.
Well, because if you don't, you're a bad parent, right? I mean, look how some people's parents have been shamed online as unsupportive and, can you believe they didn't support their transition? Can you believe they didn't accept this and that? The other girl who's literally going to a prawn shooting and her mom has to go with her and
Oh,
support
that was
it.
ridiculous.
It's just like,
Now, does that happen 50 years ago?
it doesn't happen. And does it happen now with, if you told your father you're going to go do a naked photo shoot, or
Yeah, come
know,
drive
that-
me over there because I'm feeling
it's
self-conscious
not.
about
I think
it.
women have become too lax with it. And some people just simply don't want a parent. So, I think I would prefer before when it was like, okay, at least just be in front of TV. Now it's like, go wherever you want, do whatever you want. I don't really care. And I'm still trying to be out here.
It kind of reminds
I
me
have
of,
things to do.
what was what channel was it? Was it CBS where the mom was waxing herself with her daughter?
Oh, God.
They wax each other.
Yeah, and the friend thing. There needs
The
to be a
friend
level
thing.
of respect, right? You can't be your child's friend. That's it. I mean,
That's definitely a new concept.
yeah.
Being friends with your kids. You can be friendly, and I'm like, you can be really cool with like your dad or whoever, but
Yeah.
like,
And I think in that one, when they were doing the waxing thing, they were preparing to go on a date or something, or go not
Or
on a
going-
date, going
going
out,
out,
to
yeah.
to look for
which
dates.
is the strangest concept to me. I don't know why.
Mother daughter searching for.
Like you guys are looking at the same dude. Like what? That's weird. That's,
And if it was like a smaller proportion of the United States, and then we'd be like, oh, it's just a weirdo family. But no, people are just like, okay, that's normal.
do you think the root of this problem is just that the older women, and by older, I guess we're going to talk about millennials. The millennial
on
age
the
group.
older end of millennial, like 40 something.
Probably the middle younger. Well,
Okay.
actually, maybe the whole range. We'll say the whole range.
Okay, go ahead with your question.
Do you think it's because of their refusal to grow up and uphold known values and good traditions? I mean, you can throw away the stuff that was bad. Maybe you had an abusive parent or whatever, and you're like, yeah, I'm not going to be that guy, or I'm not going to be that chick. I'm going to be a better version of that. And you threw away the stuff that was bad. You kept the stuff that was good. But it looks like a lot of us are throwing away tradition and replacing it with emptiness, because we're not replacing it. It's going to be an empty void of anarchy, just whatever. Mm-hmm. Is that the real issue? Is this why we're seeing the abortion rates increase, syphilis going nuts, the fatherlessness, kids? Is that the
Increased
root?
loneliness
Is that the root
and
of
suicidal rates?
all this stuff?
I think you touched on something really important. Well, the whole thing, but oh my goodness, did I lose my train of thought? At the beginning of that, saying that did people lose the traditions? But even before that, I think. Well, go ahead first, because I think I lost.
I asked you the question.
I know, but I lost my train of thought. I had something and I just lost it because I was waiting to finish the whole thing.
All right. I would say that it is. I don't think we have half these problems. We didn't have these problems before.
Yeah.
And when is debatable, because I know some people would probably cite the Moynihan report that was written in the 60s.
Okay.
When people made the deal of, hey, replace your husband with a check. And people are like, yeah, I'll take that deal. That's a sweet deal to me.
Yeah.
And then maybe some people say, well, no, it's a little bit later than that. Maybe it was the 80s with the whole crack epidemic. That was the tipping point on that end. And then some people were like, maybe it was actually a little bit later than that in mass incarceration. Whatever the point you want to mention, I would probably lean a little bit more towards the 60s, because that gives room for the other things that happened afterwards. I don't know how we move forward from here. Like, I don't know what the turning point in the other direction is.
Yeah. Well, before you get to that, now I finally remembered.
Go ahead.
No. The point about maybe people don't want to just grow up, I think, and this is not me making any excuses for people, I think also society has changed a lot with, obviously, but with the income and different types of jobs coming into the market and people's ability to work in the things that you can get, and the people being sacked with a whole bunch of student debt. I think it's just a couple years back that there were a lot of news stories about, the millennials who were still living with their parents, and it's like, well, they weren't still living with their parents. They went to college, and then they didn't have, a job that they could actually support themselves, and they went back home. So it's kind of like an extended childhood, but you're in the house. But also with parents that are like, go get a job, but you kind of do, but you're still doing what you want or hanging out, and which means you're not starting your own family, right? But when you survey people in millennials, and I think maybe Gen Zers, definitely millennials, they've mentioned that they don't think they can afford to have a family.
Yes, that is a common.
Especially
comment.
last year with the housing interest rates going up, and not to say that you have to have all those things to expand your family. It just, I think the societal pressure, a lot of those people feel like they had to have a certain setup.
Okay, I guess my comment to the living with parents.
Okay. That doesn't explain the debauchery and like sleeping
Yeah.
around, but I think also with the heavy use of not just alcohol, but other things to get under the influence, because a lot of people are depressed, and then of course COVID heightened that. So.
Okay, so you're saying a bigger issue than, out of the things that you listed, would you say that the depression is the bigger one?
Ooh. I'd say definitely.
Okay.
And then maybe people aren't addressing the root issue.
All right, let me go one by one.
All right.
The living with your parents thing, it's not an issue if the dynamics change. Because for one, if you went off to college, you were living by yourself. Mm-hmm. Or maybe you had some roommates. If you go back and living with your parents, the dynamic is different. Like, you're not a kid anymore at that point. If you reverted back to childhood, then that's a problem. But if you're like, hey, what I'm going to do is stack as much as I can. I'm going to find a beater apartment, maybe find another roommate, and go about it that way. I think that's fine, and I don't think that impacts I don't think that reverts you to not growing up.
Yeah.
You might have to have a different path of getting to point B, but
Yeah.
as far as the mentality, I don't think the mentality is that different for that scenario. The issue would be if your parents are not kicking you out of the house, right? If your parents are like, you can stay here as long as you want, and they're also buying groceries, and they're also doing your laundry, and basically treating you as though you were a high schooler.
Mm-hmm. A high schooler who now has privileges to go out to the club. And so
Yeah.
so even if you do make money, you're spending it all on, like, you're just being irresponsible.
That's where the issue.
So you're not growing up.
Yeah, that's where the issue would be. Now, I wouldn't really put too much emphasis on that group because I think that that's more of an age thing, and I think most people are out of that phase by 25.
Yeah.
Maybe longer. I know some articles are saying people are staying until 30, which that would delay a lot of things. But I'm hoping if you're 30 years old, you're at least in some type of job that has decent money.
Yeah. I mean, it's just things happen, so people go like back sometimes. But I don't know if that would affect the larger group though. You're right, there might not be the same people that are going out and getting all these diseases and being together and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Now,
it is separate from the point of the community promoting those type of behaviors.
the late family comment, I think that's more relation to people who are already married, and they're choosing to delay family creation because of the expenses that come with children.
Okay.
That's a different group because you're already paired by that point.
So that cuts them out because they're not the single people.
They're not the single people.
Let's go.
The depression one, I think, is a really good hot point that I do think. I think part of it has to do with how this generation was raised, because this was the first generation where everybody got a trophy,
Yeah.
right? So there was a shift.
Everyone's
raised,
a winner.
yeah, I was raised by my grandparents, so I was raised old school, right? So if you only got a trophy if you actually won, right? Yeah, that's what it is. And if you didn't win, you got clowned. Like, it's like, you look like shit out there. Like, what was that? I don't want to come to a game where you look like that. Like, that's you get ridiculed, right? That's the environment I came from, right? But that forces you to be like, you have to work hard if you want to get something. The everybody gets a trophy generation. Those are the same people who are complaining right now whenever something doesn't go right at the Supreme Court, right? Those are the people who are protesting, saying things are unfair. Right? No one really cared about fairness as far as complaining about it before. If something was unfair, you start putting in work, right? Like for instance, right? You want to talk about the civil rights acts and the civil rights era, right? There was actual things that were unfair, but those people went to work to do something about it, right? And they say, all right, look, this is a deal that we would like to make. The riots were more of a way to get attention, but legislation, the courtroom, and actually talking to leaders of influence was the actual hard work that was happening behind the scenes. You don't get an act just because you yelled at a bunch of people. You get an act because you wrote it, and then you're presenting it to whoever you need to present this to.
Yeah.
So if everybody's getting a trophy, everyone's feelings is being coddled, then yeah, if I don't feel like doing something that's difficult, then I don't.
And that's how you get the behavior of, and if I want to do something, even if it's detrimental or might have long-term consequences, I'm going to do it.
Because I don't believe in consequences, because I want it all.
Yes.
I want it all is another point.
Yes,
I
that's
want
a
it,
good one.
I want it all is...
Well, I want it all. I want all the good parts.
Yeah.
I want it all, and then I also want all the good parts of things, and I don't want the consequences. I don't want the responsibilities, which is why there's a lot of the complaining and how UBI came out about, you know.
So yeah, I think that I want it all is probably a big factor into it. I want to be able to do what I want to do, and I also don't want to feel any of the consequences of those actions. I want to be able to eat as much as I want without getting fat, right? This is why you have a lot of us dying from these liposuctions, like going over to Mexico and trying to get surgeries because we don't want to control our eating, right? I want to be able to do whatever it is I want to do, and I want to suffer zero consequence.
And you better not say anything about it being me holding any accountability.
Absolutely not. I want to be able to take the security of the B contract, right, with health insurance, and regardless of whether I play a soccer game or not, I'm still going to get a check. But I also want the advantage of the male contract, where if I win a big game, I get a big bonus. I want all the good things of the male contract, but none of the consequences. Like if I don't play, I don't get paid.
Oh yeah, so like taking a risk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
But then I'm gonna complain when I see they won and they got
100% facts.
Yeah, they got a lot of money. That you're like, I wanted to have that money, and then you start saying things are unfair, it's unequal.
Yep.
And I think that's where I just don't. I'm like, stop the cap. I hate liars. I hate the whole lying thing. To me, is just. It's interesting because they want to make a whole segment of society feel sorry for them. And it's like you're doing things, you're not even presenting the right arguments, right?
No.
You're not being real.
Here's another great one. The young lady who graduated from, I think, TSU, right? She takes a picture next to the school mascot in what looks like stripper attire. And she has her cap on.
What's wrong?
Her graduation cap.
She graduated.
She posts that, right? Then she gets a bunch of flack, and she's confused as to why all these people have these negative things to say about her graduation photo. And it's like, that's not a graduation photo. That is a calendar picture for a exotic brand.
Yeah.
Right? That's what that is. You're advertising sexual services.
Oh, goodness.
No one is thinking, oh, look how smart she is by looking at your butt.
You graduated. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys, or tell us your story if you took a naked graduation photo to commemorate your accomplishments.
No.
No, I know. I'm just kidding.
But that's the thing of the reason why I couldn't just make a regular graduation photo to show this accomplishment of graduating from college is because that's not going to get as many likes as the butt shot.
Yeah.
And so I want to be able to get the attention of the butt shot, but then also the acknowledgement of the degree all in one.
Yeah.
Because that makes sense.
Well, so they can separate themselves from the average stripper girl or OnlyFans person.
Does it matter if you're an educated stripper or not? If you're doing the same job?
Well, that's the thing. I think they're trying to make... That's why there was a push for removing the stigma and saying, oh, there's nothing wrong with, did they call it sex work or something like that? And so...
Even, yeah,
and the photos and putting... people have become way too comfortable with taking a picture of their butt and putting it online. So I personally don't want to see it, but it's not matter. It doesn't matter what I think. But I think generally they've lost the purpose. Because you're right. What would be the purpose of taking a graduation photo with no clothes on?
And honestly, I would.
And then they'd be pissed if someone was like, okay, how much?
Right. And I'm really confused at this point on, like, with any other product, there's a thing called oversaturation, right? If it's an overabundance of it, the value decreases. So what I'm confused about at this point is that there's an oversaturation of butt, right? I can go down the street and there's a million girls walking around now with yoga pants that outline every single nook and cranny. I can go on to Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn now, right? And I've been very surprised
with
LinkedIn. Yes, I've seen them on LinkedIn now.
Wow. That's okay.
It's not hard for me to find and to see, so I don't understand why people put so much value on it now, because it's literally everywhere. It's like, it's not. I'm surprised people are still getting likes and comments for just a butt picture, because there's a million butt pictures, like literally a million at this point. What's the excitement?
The thing is, I think people get into the addiction of trying to get more likes than the last person. Actually,
but the consumer, though, I understand
the
the
person
producer,
watching,
right?
yeah.
I understand the person who chose to take that picture,
yeah,
and post it, because they're trying to feed their addiction of attention and likes and whatnot.
yeah.
But as far as the market, I'm confused why the market is still hot. Why do people still care about that? It's oversaturated.
Maybe the addiction's both ways. Maybe the people who do look at it are also addicted. But I don't know. I think people are looking for the next crazy thing. And some people are just forced to use it. Like, I know the reason you said you were on Instagram was because it's more of a work thing. You have to post for that. Mm-hmm. And there are still a lot of professional people on there, but unfortunately, other things just get in your feed. So I don't know who they're doing it for. And I don't know who the people are who are responding to it, I guess, because you were more concerned about the second group.
But I don't know. It's a strange one. But we have some issues that need to be resolved. For the syphilis folks, or not for the syphilis folks, for the people who are concerned about the syphilis outbreak,
Okay, there we go.
I would say that you just need to chill out on just having sex with random people. I think that would be very helpful for you at this point. That's a hard order to fill. I understand. People have no self-control these days. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess the worst case scenario is we have an over fluctuation of syphilis cases. We send penicillin out through all corners of the country, and then eventually penicillin stops working. And then what? That would be the worst case scenario, because it's one of those things where bacteria will get a tolerance for something if it gets hit with it too much. But we're not thinking about that part. I just had a really good time last night, so that's all I'm thinking about.
And they go off and do it again.
Mm-hmm. Reminds me of those little kids who were smashing in the bathroom, and that chick gave that guy herpes. And
oh, those high schoolers, maybe early high school.
I don't know if they're. I think they might have been out of high school. They were young. They were like 18.
Yeah. Well, yeah, kids.
And she was like, I'm young and I was drunk. Which, if you're 18, why are you drinking? But that's a whole nother question. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But she was like, people make mistakes and stuff. But it's like, yes, people make mistakes. But this seems to be a mistake you continually make. Like, you're not learning from these mistakes. You're just doing. You already have herpes, which means you made this mistake before.
They're following people who tell them to do certain actions, and then they're not going to be around for the consequences. Like artists, like the one you mentioned earlier, the other rapper girls who brag about doing whatever with whoever, wherever. And unfortunately, a lot of kids just think they're cool, right? So they're just like, oh, I might try that. They might not even know what it is. And then when they get exposed to some of these rappers, they're like, oh, I have to do this. And then the boys obviously are going to have the pressure too. Like, oh, if I haven't done this, then I'm not cool. And then when it results in a situation like what you just mentioned with herpes or syphilis, then people start being like, oh man, but I'm only this age, you know, I wish it didn't happen to me. But if someone had told them before, and then also, you know, I have to wonder, like, where were your parents? You know, why were you at some party where that's even a possibility of that happening?
So are you suggesting that this influence on social media is just a big version of peer pressure?
Oh, yes. Definitely for the younger kids, too. I mean, you said 18, so even their age, I mean, just imagine peer pressure from back when you're in high school, well, earlier and stuff. Even if you personally didn't succumb to that and you were like, you know, you're strong-minded, have your own way that you go, and maybe you're just a good student, good kid. Still, that takes a lot of, like, self-identity and wanting to go your own way, not worrying about what other people think. So the groupthink really, I think, pushes people to do things. And sometimes people egg people on. I mean, that's why, you know, they have those phrases of birds of a feather flock together. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the company you keep, watch the company you keep. So they really can be led in a wrong direction. And those friends aren't around after things happen to those people. And they instead look at them and they're like, oh, look what happened to them, even though they're the ones who led them in that situation. And then, of course, it's heightened, I think, in the more lawless areas, like, you know, hood areas. And
do you think it's a situation where the kids are not listening to the lessons and warnings of the parents, or the parents are just not doing their job?
Ooh, I don't like to blame parents. I would say a combination of both, because some people's parents are telling them what to do, and there's some things you can't protect your kids from, especially if they don't listen to you, you know? Like even some of the stuff we mentioned earlier with the groups of black women who are now, like, you know, complaining of not having protection. And it's like, well, because you didn't want the protection. You had protection. The protection was us giving you a warning not to do certain things, and you chose to go out and do it anyways. And so now I can't protect you because now you've done something too far that I can't, that's not in my control. Mm-hmm. I can't go back and change the scientific diagnosis that you have. Like, yeah, you would have been better had when I said don't sleep around, you didn't. So, and I think for the kids, you just have also, they're not fully developed. So they don't know. They don't know the dangers, you know? They don't know the dangers out there. Some of them don't have good examples. And some of them, even when you do, they hold the, like I said, the artists in higher regard.
So
based and their siblings, depending on what their older siblings have done too.
So based off of what you just said, you would be, I guess, a part of the Dr. Umar Johnson camp or Boyce Watkins.
As far as what?
Because of this lack of guidance.
I think Dr. Umar placed way too much responsibility on the general, like, black men to take care of the problem. Oh, okay, and that's what he said. And Dr. Boyce Watkins, I guess his argument was, his is actually get married to the single mom, right? With the kids.
I guess he's more advocating.
He's more like that, and then I think Dr. Umar would probably say the same thing of getting married, but he also thinks that black men should take time to generally help people in the community. I do believe in community service and charity and helping others, and we really should help each other as a society. I think we're also losing a little bit of that. Yeah. However, people have their families, and being realistic about how much time you can invest in other people's children. And then also, depending on how far they've gone. I mean, like, are you talking about teenage kids? What age kids are you talking about? And then also let me take one at a time. Let's say you want to get married to the single mom. Does she want to be a wife? Is her house in chaos because she really just didn't have a chance? She's struggling. She's trying to work however many jobs, do what she can. You know, she just got in a bad situation, but she's like, she just needs a partner that's actually going to be faithful and, you know, loyal and everything. Is it that, or is she going to be, you know, down your throat? Leave my child alone. Don't tell them what to do. Like, any kind of discipline you try to input in them, she blocks it, but she also doesn't reinforce anything. And then the child is just having chaos. I would not invite people to go into a relationship like that.
Yeah.
Because then you have no control over your house. And that's not good for anybody. That's not good for her, for the mom, for the kids, for you. And it really destroys the direction in which, I'm going to go back to God here. He already told us how the structure of the family, right?
That is actually a whole point that we have not mentioned at all in this conversation, is the decreased faith that we have in our community.
Yeah. We don't have to reinvent stuff. It's in the book.
Before we get in too deep into that, I want to finish the thought that we had.
Yeah.
Oh man, now it's my turn. I just lost my train of thought.
Sorry. You're saying about the kids and the...
Oh, yes. Okay, so I do think that this conversation is not factoring in the work that's already being done. My brother's keeper... I know that Derek Muhammad in Houston has a Black Male Summit that he puts on every year. Steve Harvey had his camp, where you can bring your young son to that camp and they can, get connected to mentors. And so there's a lot of programs. I think the issue that we have, or I think the thing I would like to say to Dr. Umar Johnson and Boyce with that position, I don't have an issue with that position per se. But I would say that the difference between the kid who you're talking about, at least I think that you're talking about, who's wilding out in the neighborhood, right? Stealing stuff, breaking into places, just lawlessness and anarchy. And the kid that gets signed up to Steve Harvey's camp, is that kid's more... he is more willing to learn and to listen. There's a drive to be there. He wants what these old timers have to offer. Versus, I think the neighborhood kid is too far gone. I don't think he wants to hear what anybody has to say. And he's already cemented into that lifestyle. And so I don't know what you do about that, because it seems like that's the guy that Dr. Umar Johnson's talking about, that we need to give job opportunities to and all this other stuff. And it's like, he can't hold down a job. He doesn't have any discipline, right? He can't take instruction. So it's like, what kind of job is he holding down? He already has a couple of misdemeanors. And so he has misdemeanors for stealing and theft and stuff. Do I really want that person around my inventory? I don't. So it's like, what do you do in that situation? Because I think we would need to better define who we're talking about. Because I think we were talking about a lot of different groups. And because we're talking about a lot of different groups, that means that you can mix your messages up. Because then there could be a situation where both people are correct because they're talking about two entirely different groups. So that would be my only comment on that, is I think that we need to define what we're talking about. If there is a particular group that we want to address, let's define that in the beginning of the conversation and then be like, all right, we're talking about this type of kid. What do we do about them? Right? Because it's not like these programs do not exist. And that was kind of the impression I was getting from Dr. Umar Johnson, is like, nobody's doing anything and black women just let the community dissolve into chaos. And that's not entirely accurate. There are plenty of programs throughout the country. The problem is they're not big in number. But maybe that's because of volume. And maybe it's the kids that would actually benefit from such program are fewer in number. Or maybe it's just more of the bad kid gets more attention, right? It could be a lot of different factors. Going into your religion comment, nationally, outside of the black community, Americans have become less religious. Mm-hmm. It's hit us, I would say, in a different way, because I would say we are a little bit more hypocritical now. We've adopted this idea that God forgives everything that we do, so I can continue doing the thing that I know God doesn't like, because I'm forgiven. And I think, I don't know where that developed from. That's a complete misunderstanding of how God works. God is the most forgiving, yes. But this forgiveness comes with some work on your end. You need to stop doing the thing that you know you're not supposed to do. Like the whole repenting thing is what's completely missing in this equation. Like, I messed up.
Oh, I'm not going to say that.
I'm going to repent, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to work to not do that thing again, so I can receive the forgiveness that I'm asking for. And it's now gotten warped to, I'm going to continually offend because I'm saved. Like, that's not how this works. But it makes you feel better, right? So it's like, yeah, who wouldn't want a deal where I can just do whatever I want and there's no consequence because I'm special? So, yeah, I'm just going to continue doing this thing because I'm a broken, or I'm human, or what other excuse that people make. Like, we're the first humans that ever existed on this planet. Like, we're the only people who've ever dealt with issues. Like, you do realize that humans have been on this planet for thousands of years. We're not the first generation. We're not going to be the last.
Oh, that's actually a good point.
Yeah, like, they make
Yeah,
it seem
what
like
you're saying about the
our
history.
particular issues are so unique and different. And it's like,
people aren't paying attention to history.
like, it's not like we're dealing with a world war. Right now, that's difficult. Everybody around you dying, that's difficult. You want to talk about, you have family issues. Well, let's talk about a situation where your whole family died.
No, there's a lot of things. I mean, even that article that you read earlier, and she mentioned the word trauma, and I think people are really throwing around the word trauma these days.
It's profitable.
It is.
I mean, I don't. The big pharma is probably making serious bank on antidepressant drugs. Serious bank.
And that might be a reason why America wouldn't address the real issue. We don't need to address the real issue, just like generally with our healthcare. So, and big pharma, as you said, because I want you to buy these pills indefinitely.
Indefinitely.
And then if you have side effects, I'm going to give you another pill.
I wanted you to go to this therapist indefinitely. And shout outs to Kevin Samuels, because he's the first one, at least that I've heard on any kind of media platform, that actually mentioned this. And it's like, this person can't be a great therapist if you've been going to them for like 5 years addressing the same issue. Like, where's the growth in that? At some point, you're supposed to graduate out of that problem. How are you addressing that problem? You've been talking to this person for 5 years. Like, maybe it's time for you to switch to a different therapist, because clearly that therapist isn't doing their job. Therapy is not supposed to be an indefinite thing. I'm not against therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And for some folks, therapy is very important, and it helps them unlock some things that they couldn't see themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, you should get the help you need.
But I don't think that this is, your therapist isn't your friend.
Oh, yeah. I was seeing a lot of commercials like that. And I'm like,
that's not it. Your therapist is there to help you with a particular problem. And then once you have the tools you need, you can go off and do your own thing. Right.
Well, it's fashionable now, right? To say I have a therapist. I'm going to therapy. Which is actually really interesting for the number of people that are depressed. And then if they are going to therapy, why aren't people getting better?
Because it's not working. They're not actually resolving anything.
Yeah.
You know what I think is happening? I think people are going to therapy and having these sessions, and they're letting down their burdens. They're talking to this person for an hour or 2 hours or however long you book this person.
Mm-hmm.
And they're listening to you, and you feel good that somebody's listening to you. And then maybe at some point, the therapist might actually say something that, hey, maybe you should try this to address this, right? We're going to baby step it, right? And then you try the thing, and there's a difficult point, and then you just stop doing it. So the actual problem never gets resolved because you never even make it past step one.
Yeah.
That's what I think is
That's an
happening.
interesting theory.
Because I don't know how you have therapy for indefinite amount of time on the same problem. Maybe, unless, the percentages are people just have multiple problems, and so after they got done with one, now they're working on another one. They just happen to be using the same therapist. That's a possibility, sure.
That could be it.
I'll leave
Life
that
is
door
full of
open.
problems, so.
I'll leave that door open.
Although when you said the tools, that means you'd be able to use the tools and different issues came up.
Yeah, I mean, you would be better equipped to handle another problem, right? You're not starting from scratch, in theory. Right, if you already lost a loved one, right, and you had a hard time dealing with that, and then you worked through it, and then you lose another loved one, is it going to hit you the same way it hit the first time?
Maybe yes, but then the resolution could be different.
Yeah, I don't.
Or
I
not
mean,
the resolution would be the same, but it'd become quicker to you because you know what to do.
you know what to do. That's what I don't.
If
That's what I'm
that's where you're
saying.
going
It
with
wouldn't
that.
hit the same way. Yes, it would still hurt. I'm not saying that you wouldn't feel pain. That's not what I said. I said
Yeah.
would it hit the same? No, because you didn't have anything the first time. Now you've already have the experience. So I don't know. Slightly off topic subject, but
Yeah, a little detour.
that's just one of the things that I would say it's a multi-disciplined issue. Hopefully the folks who are out here having fun, I guess is the way you would call it, are using protection or just, choosing a different lifestyle. But I don't have much hope for that. So
For the choosing different lifestyle.
yeah, I don't think that's going to be a thing. So hopefully people actually use protection. That would be nice. It's not a issue. It's not an issue that affects me. So I'm not out here. So it doesn't bother me. I'm not gonna, I'm not really impacted by this unless somebody scratches themselves and then rubs their cut on me.
Oh gosh, just randomly here in Houston.
Right. Suck my blood. Yeah. And it's
Zombies, no.
right. So I don't know. That could be a possibility. But another possibility we have is the ability to like and subscribe to the show.
Tap the notification bell.
We will see y'all in the next one.